Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we're looking at the Brous Blades Virtue. Alright guys, so there it is, the Brous Blades Virtue. And what we have here is a titanium handled ball bearing flipper. So, titanium handle material on this side. Has some nice cuts and milling done to it. Gives it kind of a contoured edge or contoured handle. And as we roll around the back, we've got some nice back spacers. I kind of like the soft edges on that back spacer. And we got some jimping cut back here. Not terribly aggressive. Should be pretty good for everyday carry. And while we got it back here, we should probably look at the flipper tab. And this is number 14 of 500, and that flipper tab is shaped pretty well, no jimping on it. It doesn't need any, and it does have that kind of hook shape, but you don't have to put a lot of force into this knife to get it to open, so that's okay. It's not going to tear up your finger. And as we roll around to the other side, it is a liner lock, so this side is more of a scale than a piece of handle material. Or a slab handle. And we do have what I assume is titanium pocket clip, milled clip, and same contouring on this side. And we look right down over it, we can see that liner lock, and we can also see that the liner is full. It's not an inset, it is a full liner that's the full shape of the knife all the way around. Which means that, you know, the scale here is basically a cover or a piece of, handle material or whatever you want to call it, but it's there to cover up that piece of stainless. And our dimensions come out to a little over 4.6 inches long, a handle thickness of just over ½ an inch, and a closed height of just under 1.4 inches. So, pretty compact knife. And let's put it in the pocket and see what we've got. There's our Levi's, and you get it in the pocket. You got the nice little thing here. It does say Brous Blades in big letters, but I don't think you're going to get away from that with a Brous. And because it's a milled clip, we don't have any kick up right here, and it is somewhat rounded, so maybe it won't be bumping into things and scratching things, lifting the clip out of or lifting the knife out of your pocket. But it does ride reasonably low in the pocket, and it doesn't have a shape. I haven't carried it much, but I don't think that shape is going to get caught on things too badly. Anyhow, get our Levi's put away and move on to the blade. And with the blade, we have a 3.5 inch blade with a 3.2 or so cutting edge. And Jason is one of those guys that's kind of like Spider-Crow. We're going to have to assign a blade shape to him. We're just going to have to call it a Brous point, because it's essentially a drop point, but not really. So anyhow, the one thing that Brous always does really well are the grinds. And these grinds are absolutely beautiful. We will fuss at him about one thing here in a minute, but the grind itself is really, really beautiful. We have a bit of a swedge up here. Also very, very well done on both sides of the knife. Everything just really well done. We do have a functioning blade hole. We'll get into that here in a minute. And a little bit of light jimping cut across the top. Now the one place we are going to pick on him is right there at the sharpening choil. You know better, Jason. I know that Rob has been on your butt about that for quite some time now. Why could you not just extend that sharpening choil a little bit or shorten up that plunge grind so we have a nice consistent edge all the way to the back? Anyhow, now I think we're done fussing on him because there's not really much to fuss about on this knife. And our stock edge, and that's exactly what we have here, is a stock edge on this. This is the edge that Brous put on it. It's fairly even on both sides of the blade. So let's see how sharp it is. And that, my friends, is why I haven't, one of the reasons I haven't sharpened it. Brous sent me a very sharp knife. It is slightly toothy at the edge, but man, it's sharp. And now we'll go to our pause and read card. You guys can look at that while I clean this up, and I'll be back with you here in just a moment. Alright, mechanically this thing is a liner lock. As you can see there, that liner goes all the way around the knife. As you can see, the little dark line in between the titanium and the steel. All the way around it. So it's almost a frame lock, and this is a design that I'm really starting to like. You know, you don't have any issue with flipping the knife left-handed. There's no place to put, you know, where you put your thumb where it makes it hard, like say, you know, a hinderer. If you don't have your hand in the right place on a hinderer, you dang near can't flip it out. You've got to be conscious of where your fingers and your thumb are. Not so with this Brous, because it is kind of a liner lock. You've got something covering that lock bar so that you don't get your fingers in it. And anyhow, so the lock mechanism is a liner lock. Lock up at this point is probably around 30% or so. So, you know, it's pretty darn good. And it locks up solid. And whenever I say solid, you know, people like to talk about bank vault lock up. Most of the time, even with a high-end knife, I can get a hold of the knife in such a way that I can feel the blade moving just a little bit. And that's kind of to be expected. You know, it's almost impossible to get one to lock up like a fixed blade, you know, except for a few. You know, you've got the strong lock system from Buck, from G&G Hawk. That thing locks up like that. And so does this liner lock from Brous Blades. That is probably the most solid lockup that I've experienced in a folding knife. Take that with a grain of salt. I mean, yes, it's solid. It's still not, say, well, we had the hinderer out, we'll get the hinderer back out. It's definitely still not hinderer strength, but it's dadgum good for what is designed to be an EDC knife and not exactly a hard use knife. And moving on to ergonomics. We have, of course, the flipper tab to keep us from running our hand up on the blade if we need to do a thrust. And overall, the knife feels really, really good in hand. If there was anything I could complain about, it would be that this gets a little thin back here. And that's not really a complaint. That's just, you know, Jason, if you're listening, I would like this same knife in a 4-inch version and give me just, I don't know, 3/10 of an inch more in thickness back here. You know, and that would be freaking awesome. But for a 3.5-inch blade, and since this is one I can own, unless Jason does do something like make me one, which I seriously doubt is going to happen, it is really, really good. The pocket clip doesn't cause a hot spot. There isn't a whole lot to grab a hold of. Your jimping here in a standard grip doesn't do a whole lot. Your jimping up here on the back of the blade does, on the spine. And overall, it feels really good in hand. Do your draw cuts with it. You can get your reverse grip and this little kind of a pinch grip that I use quite often, kind of a scraping grip. That works really well too. And you know, it just works. You know, and I've said that before. I don't bring you guys knives that have bad ergonomics, because if I can obviously see they have bad ergonomics, I'm just going to skip them. And this one's no exception. It's pretty good in any way you want to get a hold of it. However, Jason, I would like that 4-inch one, 3/10 of an inch more here, and 4-inch blade. Anyhow, thanks, Jason. And moving on, our action is just beautiful. It's running on Brous's bearings, and they just work great. Not a lot of effort necessary to get it to flip. Just flips right out there just like it should. And the blade hole, you can use it as a thumb hole. It isn't as good as a Spidey hole, of course. You don't have the big Spidey hump and easy to get hold of, but it's not hard to use. And with some practice, if that's how you wanted to open the knife, you could. To draw this look at it to a close, I really like what Brous has done here. Jason Brous and his crew has brought us a very clean knife in an EDC size package that, while it's super nice looking, doesn't have this huge amount of flourish that many of the higher end EDC knives do. You know, we've got pretty basic hardware, but it's good hardware. Got a very nice pocket clip. It does not tip up left or right, though. It's only right-handed. That's kind of a bummer, but very nice. And yet, even though it has such a simple look to it, whenever we get that blade out there, we have that signature Brous Blades look. We have the interesting blade shape, the really high hollow grind, and it's just a Brous blade. It's obvious from a mile away. And I appreciate it that they've brought that to us in a knife this size. And if I didn't say earlier, the thing is very, very well centered as well. It's pretty much dead on. So that's it, guys. The Brous Blades Virtue. It's a good one. I really like it. I really appreciate that Jason is getting us some EDC size knives in that 3.5 to 4 inch range that are light enough for EDC and have really, really great actions. And this one does, and it still has that signature Brous look to it. And I really like that. Like it a lot. And it's reasonably priced at 200 bucks at Vayser Arms right now, and that's something we need to talk about for a moment. Right now at Vayser Arms, it's $200. Whenever these knives reach a certain sales number, Felix, one of the owners over there, is going to release these knives to other dealers, and whenever that happens, the price is going to go up at Vayser Arms and everywhere else. So if you want one, you need to jump on it. So anyhow, I know from looking across the internet there has been some concern about dealing with Vayser Arms in the past. I didn't have any problem with dealing with them. The only problem I had was payment. Payment got kind of goofed up dealing with PayPal and some other stuff. And anyhow, I talked to Felix directly, got that straightened out. Everything went through great. He got a knife to me that's in great shape and got it to me quickly. So my experience with Vayser Arms, with the exception of the payment snafu, was very, very good. And I don't think if Jason Brous and his crew thought that there was going to be a problem over there, that they would be doing an exclusive with them. So if you've dealt with Vayser Arms in the past, or you've read some of the forum posts that have been negative, you know, I can't speak for everything. All I can say is my experience, except for the little snafu with payment, was very good, and Felix was very accommodating, got things out to me quickly. And I really appreciate that, Felix. And the Brous Blades Virtue, if you're in the market for mid-tech knives and you have any like whatsoever for this thing, you probably ought to get one. Anyhow, guys, I really appreciate you stopping by and talking knives with me for a few minutes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.